Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Summer Game Jam. We've really enjoyed the workshop so far, and we've got one final workshop to sign off the week. So, very super excited to have this one. We've got Lather uh, from Kamigotchi. Kamigotchi. They're going to be talking about how to build a world on chain. How's it going?
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Cool. I'm going to drop off, and you can get going.
Awesome. Okay, so I hope you can all see my presentation here. I guess you'll probably be able to guess that Claude helped me make this, but there's no way that I'm making a PowerPoint myself these days. So what I want to talk through this presentation, I guess this is going to be kind of rambling through a bunch of different things, is principles I've kind of picked up over the last few years on building games on chain, what I think is important, and some tips for you guys in terms of what you can use when you're building things throughout the hackathon. So I don't really know how long this will be. I'm going to just kind of talk through things gently as seems natural for me, so I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so we have now been running Kamigotchi World for about a year and a half, and I believe in many ways we can probably claim that it's one of the most sophisticated and one of the busiest fully on-chain games that's ever been built. I think when I say fully on-chain, I mean we built this 100% on-chain, so everything about it is decentralized. The whole game comes through smart contracts, everything can be seen on-chain, everything can be modded. Very few people have ever done this. And for the purposes of the hackathon, I'm going to give you a tip. Do not do this. It is extremely difficult. It will take you 6 months to a year to build a game like this. What you want to do for now is think about having a few key things on-chain. But nevertheless, I mean, in this time, we've done 17 million transactions. We're close to minting out an NFT selection of over 20,000 of them. And the game itself is, it's a huge explorable world with 69 different like handcrafted rooms. I found it very funny this was the real number. That was actually the real number. We didn't set that up. And yeah, it's been 50 days, 450 days. The game hasn't gone down. It's gone continuously. We've ran the same economy throughout. We've had the same pool of like super engaged hardcore players. And I think that in terms of like the level of engagement and how long we've been able to keep that up, there's only really a handful of games that can really claim this. So Axie obviously is huge and has been going for a very long time. There's a few other games that have popped up in the last few years. But yeah, I think we can definitely claim to be in the all-time top 10 in terms of like serious on-chain gaming. So why build a game on-chain? People have been asking me this for years. It used to be you'd have to argue with people really aggressively and they'd say, no, it's a waste of time. Why would you do this? But I think there are some really unique advantages to building a game on chain. And I think people are still only just learning what they are. And it's going to be a while before people really learn to build games using with them. I always say, I don't think on-chain gaming will truly get big for another 5 years. So anything we're doing now, we're the people building Amiga games in the 1980s before anyone's even released Doom. We are super early to this. This is going to take a long time to be mature. It probably won't be until the next cycle that we really get like fully mature on this stuff. So everything we're doing now, anyone building on-chain games, you're at the frontier. And I think I should reiterate this because no one's done this before. No one, I mean, I can claim to be a bit of an expert, but that doesn't mean I know everything about this. No one has a comprehensive idea of what building on-chain games is about. So you shouldn't feel you have to copy anyone. If you want to do something cool or experimental or weird, you've got a good chance that might actually work because there's so many things people have never tried. But more specifically, so what crypto actually buys you? There are things you can play with here that normal games can't play with. And there are a lot of things that normal games can't do as well. But some of this stuff is unique. So one of the big key things, ownership. So players hold their assets. This is so much of the reason why anyone has ever built a crypto game. They want NFTs, the Axie line originally, My Kamigotchi, a ton of different tokens that have been built around games. This ownership concept is what makes it interesting. And so there's a lot of people who've tried to do stuff where, they've tried to introduce NFTs in traditional games, and it's kind of worked, but it's never really met full traction because, those games weren't really built around this ownership idea. But one of the principles you want to be thinking about is ownership. How do you make people feel there's something special about their NFTs? A lot of what people do, one of the classic ideas is, you take an NFT line and you let people level them up. They mint an NFT and then you can level them up over time. You can increase their stats. People just think this is cool because it's like owning your own character in an MMORPG, right? Imagine if your World of Warcraft character was an NFT and you could take it out of the game and sell it and you could show everyone its stats. This is just a cool idea. So one thing I suggest if you're thinking about that ownership principle, think about very simple NFT lines that just have a few gamified principles in a very simple game. It doesn't even have to be on-chain. But the stuff you can do with this, it will attract users. It's inherently cool. It's interesting in a way that people can't normally do. So think about that. And if you're not using NFTs, think about a traditional token. You don't have to come into this thinking like, how do I make as much money off the token as possible? But if you let people feel like they own the game's token, they're going to get more attached to it. It makes things that otherwise might not be interesting just inherently cool. You can do little things like give them bonuses in game, give them cosmetics. You don't have to make it pay to win. But if you're thinking about it, just having some kind of token and some kind of gimmick, it's almost free for you as a game designer. It's pretty easy to launch one, and it just makes things more interesting. So consider doing that just for the sake of doing it, not because you want to sell a token, not because it's a way to make money, but just because the NFTs or the token can be a fun part of the game. They can be part of the attraction for people to have that sense of ownership. So secondly, open state. This is really important if you're actually building fully on-chain or you're building key parts of the game on-chain. This means everyone can see what's going on. So normal games aren't built like this. If you play World of Warcraft or EVE Online, you don't know what's happening on the servers. Everything there is anonymous. But a crypto game, if you choose to actually build the backend on-chain, everything is transparent. And so that means it ends up functioning more like a decentralized exchange or a protocol than a traditional game. This can be really cool. You can do some fascinating things. So Kami really works because of the open information, because people can see everything. So you have people building bots to scan the whole world and look for opportunities. You have crazy styles of automated play. All of this stuff really comes from this idea of open state. And you may not want to do that. As I said, unless you're building key parts of the game on chain, that won't be an advantage. And unless you're very comfortable with smart contract dev, I would avoid doing that. But it is something that becomes interesting and useful about using crypto. This is a different way to do things. So keep that open state thing in mind. It also means you can't hide anything. Technically, there's no secrets in Kamigotchi. It's really easy to data mine us. It's really easy for someone to go in and scan the whole game and see where people are. It blocks off game mechanics as well, but it totally changes the dynamics, sometimes for the positive. Okay, so when I say credible rules, if the core mechanics are on chain, people will trust your game in a way they won't trust anything else. I mean, whether it be some kind of gambling thing, whether it just be the PvP mechanics, if people can go and read the code and see that in real time, people are going to get serious about this. And obviously that means only nerds are going to play it. And that's a rude way to put it. But there are people out there who love this stuff. And so that idea of something that's like bulletproof and on-chain that's actually decentralized, people do unique things with that. So think about this too. Can you do something where it has this sense of like the rules being on chain, even if it's just a tiny cool game loop so that people can trust it? Again, this makes things uniquely interesting. And persistence. If your game is on the blockchain, you don't have to pay the server bills. Users pay gas instead. So this, for me, I've used this to build an Asphodel recently, which is an immortal game that runs on Ethereum. So that should be running forever, essentially. The idea is that because it's like subsidized by the gas fees, because it's designed to be economically attractive anyway, it'll keep running forever and ever. So another way you can look at this again is to think about this concept of immortality. So I don't think you want to try and include all four of these things in one of your games, but I do encourage you, if you're doing a game jam, think about one of these principles. How can you use this? How can you make this game sound unique because it's used one of these four principles? There's a lot of unique, cool stuff you can do with this. I mean, the ownership thing, as I mentioned, put NFTs in it. It is simple and it works. The open state, the credible rules, the persistence, that might be more work. But again, if the game loop's very simple, there are some interesting things you can do here. Okay, so these are all suggestions. So, and this is a big thing to say, if you have tokens in your game, money is a game mechanic, and that's cool. Everyone gets excited about this. The things people play Kamigotchi because they can make a profit off it. The players have so many different schemes to PvP each other and find ways to extract and to sell the NFTs and similar. Money is a game mechanic. So if you choose to use tokens, I suggest you embrace it because you can do something unique when people actually feel that there is money in your game. They'll have more fun. They'll get the sense that they have part of the appeal of gambling. They'll get more attached to it. Use this in your own favor. One thing I've seen a lot of on-chain game designers do is they kind of shy away from the fact that people are playing like, that they're on-chain for profit. And I would suggest you do the opposite. Just have fun with the fact that it has money in it. If you're going to use tokens in some way, let people get excited about that. Let that be the uniquely cool aspect. If again, you don't have to build an economically centered game, but if you include a token or something else, just think like, how can you make this uniquely cool by thinking about it as money? How can you make a game that has money in it? This is, again, some people think this is like a dark art and that, you must build a fun game. You can't possibly think about financialization. But I'll tell you the truth. If you're in crypto, you probably think money is fun. You probably think trading is fun. So lean into your audience. Think about how you can use the tokens, how you can use the financialized aspects of the game to make things fun. Because again, that's also unique. Okay, and point 3. And almost everyone who has ever tried to build fully on-chain games is gone. My opinion, the death rate for actual on-chain gaming startups is like 98%. It's one of the most like tricky areas to find product market fit in. Even people who've raised 20 million, 100 million in funding, they do the same thing. They just end up going off chain in the end, they leave, they return their funding to whatever else. Those people weren't stupid. They were often really good engineers. But what they tried to do is they fought the fact that the game was on chain. And if you try to do that, if you try to, get annoyed and build a traditional game, if you're ranting about how the blockchain parts are holding you back, that's going to screw you. Just saw Kung Fu mode say any Factorio players here. One thing you guys want to look at is Primordium, which was like a fully on-chain version of Factorio that was built about 2 years ago and I think is now open sourced. You can probably rip parts from that. It was a really, really ambitious project. So if you're thinking of doing any Factorio style, I don't know the exact rules for the hackathon, but that might be an interesting project to look at if you like Factorio. Sorry, back to the slides. But keep in mind, people, experienced game developers with tons of money have tried to fight the on-chain game design thing and they've lost. You can't fight the fact that you're on a blockchain. You have to embrace it. Build around the fact that you're on a blockchain. Think about the project and how you can uniquely make it an on-chain game. That is how you win. The people who've succeeded have been people who've leaned into financialization, who've used the unique on-chain gaming stuff I just talked about. Use it in your favor. Don't try and fight the current, because if you fight the current, you will go out of business. I know it's a game jam, but I'm just putting this in context. Some incredibly skilled game developers with tons of money have lost this. So yeah, don't do that. Play with the current. Actually think about how you build a game on chain. Okay, and this next section is kind of just individual design principles that I've learned over time. So maybe these won't be like applicable to your game as such, but I think these are all things that you can take some insight on. So when you're designing a game, think about this stuff. Firstly, everything is public. If things are on chain, people are going to be able to see everything that's going on. So again, if your game is only partially on chain, you can hide at least some things. But if you're building something in smart contracts, everyone is going to be able to see everything you're doing. This is fine. This can be really cool. You can't do fog of war. Do not try and incorporate ZK tech into your game for the sake of a game jam. I've seen people do this. It's really not worth it. What you want to do, if you're actually going to build an on-chain game here, is you lean onto the fact that everything's public, everything's transparent. Make it super simple, but let people do the whole thing where they can watch the smart contracts, they can watch each other. Don't do anything that relies on hidden information. Obviously, if you're putting like NFTs or similar into a more traditional game structure, you can ignore this one. This one is mostly for anyone who's thinking about building fully on-chain. But from the start, you need to think every single part of your game is public. You need to design something that's still going to work even when people can see everything that's going on. And normal games do not do this at all. Next thing, never require 2 humans to be online at the same time. If you force people to matchmake, if you create a situation where, everyone needs to log in at the same time, or they need to queue-based matchmaking with Asphodel has been really hard to make it work. Anything that requires queuing, there's a good chance you're just going to screw yourself because you won't have enough users. What you need is something that happens asynchronously. So if you look at, a couple on-chain games that have popped up recently, like MOG, Maze of Gains, that is designed so that most of the PvP aspects are leaderboards, they're challenge boards, they're people playing single player. The stuff we've done with Kamigotchi, it does work as a multiplayer game because it's a very idle, slow-paced game. So you're checking back like every 4 hours or similar. That can also work. But if you make a game where you need a whole bunch of people to come online at the same time and start a round, you're just going to be trapped, like trying to organize rounds to get people in, to do the matchmaking. Don't do this. It's screwed. It almost never works, and it's a massive challenge. Anything you're going to build, try and design it so that people can play either single player, or if it's multiplayer, play it asynchronously, so that not everyone needs to be online at the same time. If you make a game, as I said, that relies on this, you're going to be trying to make matchmaking services. You're going to be trying to make queues. Like with Asphodel, we made recently, I think we tried to do queue-based matchmaking, and we were really smart about it. It still bit us in the ass. I would probably avoid it if I was redesigning that game, and I would have done something that was more single player. So don't do anything that requires everyone to be online at the same time. As soon as you start talking about running matches or rounds, like you're making your life hard for yourself. Do something that's asynchronous. Okay. Most of the time, the economy is the gameplay. And most people in crypto are going to be interested in an economy in your gameplay. Pretty much all financialized on-chain games, the economy is the gameplay. So in Kamigotchi, the whole game is kind of based upon It's actually based upon the logic of a perps protocol. So you put your Kami down in a position, it starts to generate resources over time, like funding rates on perps, and then your health drains over time. Predators will try to catch you off guard when you're not paying attention to liquidate you. And if you die, then you have to pay money to come back. So this is really all inspired by the way people hunt each other when they're trading perps. So we kind of tried to simplify the experience of perps trading and turn this into an actual on-chain game. That worked, actually. So that was really based upon building an economy that works similar to a marketplace for liquidations. So it was inspired by kind of traditional economic primitives. There's probably other game ideas here nobody has come up with, where it'd be based upon mimicking something about the experience of trading. My advice would be don't just try and, like, have it be super simple. Well, it should be simple as a game, but don't just try and show trading. Do something to dress up the experience that people might have when they're trading or when they're launching coins. Gamify it and then make it a game in itself, because there's a good chance that people who are already here in crypto are going to like that. A lot of people have tried to do this. So there's people who've done like the roach racing game, a lot of others that are basically about taking positions where you're like rapidly trading and your guy goes faster if you're managing to like take positive positions, and if you're losing money, he slows down. That kind of stuff has worked because that takes existing kind of economic ideas from existing protocols and that turns that into a game design. Whatever you're going to do, though, think about economy as the core of the gameplay. And something you may want to try and do is take inspiration from existing economies, anything from marketplaces to, as I mentioned, trading dynamics. Look there, because you're going to find inspiration for games you can build on chain that way. Often more inspiration than you'll find from trad gaming. Okay. Losses as content. Everyone loves it when people fuck up in crypto. Everyone want to watch someone else get liquidated. Everyone likes talking about how bad things happen to them. Unless you let people get screwed up, the game isn't going to be exciting. So think about how you can add some kind of viciousness to your game. Make it tough. Have permadeath, have people bet money and lose it if they die. Have your NFTs need to be revived if you lose them. Make sure there's some pain to your game, because that's how you make things exciting. Don't try and be all nice all the time, especially if you're financializing it. Go a little bit vicious. Put something in so there's a way people can screw up. That is going to make it exciting. It's going to make it interesting. And it's going to make people feel like they've achieved something when they win. So yeah, don't be nice. Make sure there's a way for people to lose, and make sure it's public when people lose, because that's going to generate content. It's going to generate people talking about your game. It's going to generate free marketing for you. Don't be overly nice. Losses are content. Think about a way to make that happen. Okay, and this one is really, really, really important. At this point, on the modern internet, bots are your players too. Doesn't matter what your opinion is about this. You can say to me, oh, it's not a real game if it's being played by AI. Every game is now being played by AI. There are AI bots in World of Warcraft that no one can detect, that people are farming, that people are running at scale. There are people AI botting EVE. There are people running AIs in every single game. And if what you're doing is on-chain, you're either going to have an open backend, in which case it's going to be full of bots, or you're going to be making a pretty simple game model to integrate with a token, in which case you most likely do not have any of the tools that big game studios use to stop botting. So just accept people are going to run bots. They're going to run bots. You can't stop them. Assume people will script it. Assume they'll automate it. Now, there are multiple ways you can respond to this. You can make a game where things are so chaotic and change so often that an LLM can't adapt properly. You can make games where scripting traditionally is impossible. You can try and moderate it, so you force all the players to be human. You could, I don't know, you can integrate world coins. You've got proof of humanity on your game and, I don't know, take the orb to your players. But realistically, you have to just accept that bots are players. So don't try and build something that will break down if people bot it. Think, how do I make a game where even if people send in a bunch of AIs and bots and everything else, how is that still going to be fun? Because you just have to deal with that. Kamigotchi, we've got to the point now where people are actually, there are full-blown AI agents with harnesses playing the game. We have people talking about using it for AI research because it's possible to benchmark AIs using the software. Like, that's becoming more and more of a real possibility. So think about it this way. Bots are your players. It's not optional. It's a fact. People are going to bot your game. So think about this in advance. Think about how you keep it fun. Think about how you either protect your game from that or you embrace it, because that's how the modern internet works. Everything is botted. And now that LLMs are present, it's easy for people to script automation, and you may even find full-blown LLMs end up playing your game. There's another game recently, I think it was called Defense of the Agents, which has been pretty cool on Twitter, where a guy made like a clone of the original Dota. But when people could just run bots in it, they could send LLMs in to try and play it and script it in various ways. He had a problem where there was more and more of the bots infesting games, and he ended up splitting it between bots and humans, and I think that made him start to struggle. My advice is he should have just embraced the bots in his games, and he would have had an easier time. Kamigotchi is bot infested. I can guarantee you pretty much all of these other games are being automated in any way people can efficiently do. So think about it. Maybe you can think of a way to design a bot-proof game where they'll just be worse than it at humans. But otherwise, you need to think about them being just part of your user base. They just are, even if that seems strange. Okay, so a little bit of commentary on how Kamigotchi works itself. So Kamigotchi in itself is actually it's a simple game loop with a lot of complex elements. So you mint an NFT, you put it down to harvest, kind of copying that perpetual futures protocol structure I mentioned. You take on more risk the longer you harvest. If you make mistakes, people can liquidate you. Eventually, you stop harvesting, you get some musu, you level up your character, you buy some items, you go explore the rest of the world. This game, we had a bunch of gigabrain devs, truly smart people, and it took us about 2 years of work on Fully Onchain to just make a simple game loop with expansions work. Keep it as simple as possible, because these things will be faster now with LLMs. You can avoid scope creep, which helps a lot. You want to have a really simple game loop. I mean, look at the games they're actually winning. Mog is basically a dungeon crawler. Loot Survivor is a dungeon crawler with a simple game loop. Kamigotchi is probably the most complex, but compared to traditional MMOs, it's still really simple. Asphodel, our other game at the moment, which is more PvP focused, it's just PvP fights. It's a very straight single progression. All of these things have really simple core game design. So you want to have a simple loop, something core, something that's just going to repeat itself over and over. Think about a very simple core game loop, and then think about how you tie that into an economy. I think that's really the trick to this. As I said, with Kamigotchi, simple game design, but then a really complex economy on top of that with items, with art and lore and everything else. That is the trick you want to go for. Don't try and have 10 overlapping game design systems and we have 3 different games. That's not going to work, especially because you're in a hackathon here and you don't have much time. You want to have one very simple game loop, and you want to build your game around that. Okay. So for Kami, a design principle that we used a lot is to pretty much make all of the visuals in the game have some kind of gameplay weight. So if you're going to do NFTs, this is a trick. Make sure everything you're doing, everything about the NFT's visuals relates to its stats. Have the traits determine the starting stats of the character. So when people are collecting it, they can get excited about not just how it looks, but also the stats. This creates kind of an extra collectability factor. And with Camis, this has made them really exciting. NFTs are tough as a product class, but Kamigotchi has kind of still got a hardcore of users who are holding them, even though, to be honest, the floor price has dropped off a lot these days, because they're attached to this idea of the connection between the in-game features and the art. If you're going to make any kind of game NFTs, this is a unique advantage. You can make the NFT's art relate to the stats. Play with this. So if you're going to do anything that has tokens in it, anything that kind of has those proc-chain characters, think about how you can tie that into your game design. It may not be as complex as you think, and it's a cool way to kind of tie the ownership aspects to everything else. Okay, so this is a pretty big one. I guess this is worth generally talking about. Lore is huge for video game. Story is huge for video game. Traditional gaming, if you make something without a story these days, people will not care. If you look at the majority of Web3 games that are around right now, they have very little story or lore. They may have some character design, they may have some simple principles. But, actually trying to push envelope on this stuff, I think we're one of very few teams that have really tried. There's a lot of writing, there's quests, there's a ton of stuff to see and explore with Kamigotchi. You can do so much with this. So, oh yeah, no, sorry, I'm not putting a little bit there. Hopefully the background noise should be less now. Okay, all good. Yeah, no, I've got the organizers telling me my mic is broken. We should be fixed. So lore is easy. You don't need to be a fantastic writer, but my advice to anyone making an on-chain game, take the time to think, what is my world called? And make at least one character, have at least one NPC who's going to show up with a name and have some dialogue lines. Just have them talk to the player. They don't have to be important, but everyone is going to remember that your game had a character in it. And if everyone else is showing up with just like, a battlefield where people fight, your game that just has basic characterization, a basic story is going to stick out so much compared to everyone else. And we've seen this play out in the real gaming industry. In the early days, people didn't have much story in games. These days, like, everyone has a story in a game. Make the effort to put in a little bit of lore, even if you're not that much of a writer. Like, find a friend to write you a page worth of plot, or even just get the AI to generate you a character. Put a character in your game and just think about your world. Sit down and think about the place for an hour. Add some details, add a few little bits of unique art. You don't need to put that much effort into this, but even like a few hours of time just on lore and characterization, they're going to make your game so much better. And this is something I see people dodge so often when they make on-chain games. They lift assets from elsewhere. They don't put their own stuff in. You don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be great at this. Just come up with one character and put them in. Or find someone you know, an artist who can do a little bit of character design, and get them to help with your game. One character, a little bit of backstory, and a few extra details in your world. That's going to make up for a day's worth of dev time. And especially if you're working a hackathon like this is a good hack. Make the effort to give your game lore. Make the effort to actually just give it the basics. Again, this is kind of carrying it, but you think about NFT projects in this place. One of the most persistent major projects in Ethereum, it's Milady, which was founded by Romelia. They're an art collective. And that, that's still kind of, Ethereum culture is massively defined by this. They were nothing except art and community and cult building. So if you're doing a game like this, put in the effort to make it look at least a little bit good. You don't need to do high things. You can absolutely AI generate all of the assets, but the aesthetic of your game matters. I've already talked about story. Think a little bit about the art. Think a little bit about how you create some kind of culture around your game. Don't just lift all the assets from Warcraft 3 or whatever. A little bit of uniqueness. Again, you don't have to be good at this. You don't have to put tons of effort into. Just take the time to think about having a consistent art style. Put a few things that stick in and pop out. All of this is so rare in crypto these days, and effort in this stuff is so rare that, that one day in your hackathon time of just thinking about lore and art and just making it pop a little bit, that is going to pay off more than like obsessively working on your game mechanics. There are plenty of projects in this industry that are just nothing except art. So, use that in your advantage. You don't have to be good. Even if you don't have an artist in your team, even if you're a pure engineer, do a little bit to express yourself. It's going to be better. Okay, and now coming back to a few final things to finish up. It looks like I'll go a little bit over half an hour here, which is good. I guess I have a little bit of time to take questions at the end or whatever. A fully on-chain world is perfectly legible to machines. AIs can actually play this. So we now have a community researcher who's building out benchmarking software around Kamigotchi. That's going to get really exciting, I think, over the next few weeks. Agents can actually play this stuff. And so this gives you a whole unique angle. If parts of your game are core on chain, if you actually bother to build a blockchain game, you have built a game that LLMs can play. That is going to get your attention. Maybe you design a game where people have their LLMs play for them. Maybe, you have a game where people's Claudes battle to the death inside the world based on their instructions. You can absolutely do that with blockchain. You don't need to go to the effort to build an API if everything is on chain. They can read it themselves. So another tip, I've already said that you need to accept bots in your game. The other side is that you can try to lean into it. You can build a game that's designed for LLMs. You can build a design that's built for bots to live in it. No one has ever really done this before. And I think this is massively underserved in crypto. There's a lot more you can do here just by thinking, how do we make use of bots? How do we actually even make it cool? How is it potentially a game mechanic that people are using the LLMs? Again, Defense of the Agents did this a few months ago. They've done pretty well on Twitter, and they've been really cool. We've done this with Kamigotchi kind of naturally. It just evolved over time, and we've seen it get really interesting. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, at least one person is going to find like huge product market fit from building games for LLMs. So just again, another hackathon idea. Maybe you build a game where people play with their Claudes, build a game where people bring the LLMs in. This is stuff that people haven't experimented in. And if you're clever about the blockchain, you can build unique stuff here that nobody's built before. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm close to the end. Yeah, and part of the interesting thing that becomes about this for us, agents can potentially, you can watch agents behave, benchmarks themselves, respond to a real economy here. That whole idea of, agents battling it out for money, there's a whole exciting kind of narrative behind this that you can build using your game. You can create this idea that, you have agents battling to the death. Oh my God, my Claude's been paying for his own token fees because he's winning games. There's a really interesting evolving angle here where you kind of push in this idea that agents are actually playing the game for money. And again, this makes things more dramatic. It's the kind of thing you can post about on Twitter. So yeah, this is just kind of a generalized tip. But if you're using agents, we have to build the game for bots. We know we have unique advantages with AI when we're building crypto games. AI and money is where things get really interesting. All these ideas of AIs managing their own treasury, you can do stuff that kind of plays into that drama with this. And again, this is a unique angle. No one has played with this before. So I'm just trying to throw this out for the builders. So this hopefully should give you lots of individual ideas you can work on. Okay, so a final 5 tips. As I mentioned earlier, ship one game loop. Do not try and do lots of overlapping systems. We've done this before. It's exhausted my team. Stick to one simple game loop. You don't want to try and go for anything more than that for a hackathon. One game loop. Keep it asynchronous. Number 2, make sure it doesn't require all the players to be online at the same time. It can be multiplayer, but if it is, then you need to make sure that people can go to bed. You need to make sure that you don't need to set up rounds, that you don't need to have anything like that. Number 3, money is going to be a game mechanic. Unless you completely cut out tokens, it's going to be relevant. Whatever you're doing, whether it be a token, NFTs, whatever, sit down and think about it. Don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be super crazy. You don't have to worry about the utility too much. Think about how you're going to use that and how it will tie into the project. 4, art can carry you. If it's your thing, make it look good. Make the effort to think about aesthetics. Make the effort to think about a visual style. It will hit so much harder. It doesn't matter how much you think your amazing game design or code is going to beat people. You should still care about the presentation and the art. It's a video game. And finally, give it a soul. There is no cheaper way to get people interested in your product than to give it good lore. On top of everything I've said, I mentioned this earlier, put a character in it, put some dialogue in it, bother to put the effort to go one step further. If you do something to give that game a soul, it's going to stick out from everything else. So yeah, for those of you that are actually building a game jam, you should try to hit 3 or at least 3 of 5 of these points. Use this to your advantage. Think about how you lean into the unique aspects of being on chain. Don't fight it. And if you can, think about making something new. Nobody is an expert in this. There's only a handful of on-chain games that have ever succeeded. It's still incredibly early for this. Make something totally new and crazy and experimental. Like, you've got way more chance of kind of distinguishing yourself doing that. Okay. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you to Claude for getting together my slides. I've covered a lot of things here. My aim is really just to be the people who are designing games for this hackathon, like some hints in terms of how they should think about it, how they should make it cool. Does anyone want to ask any questions? Kung Fu Mode Alpha now. I can't say anything about Kamigotchi or our projects right now on this. This is purely a hackathon presentation. So I'm sorry, but I will not be dropping a Kamigotchi Alpha on this call. But I will take a couple questions if anyone wants to drop them in the chat. I'll wait like a minute or so for people to drop things. While I'm waiting, I'm kind of curious to see what comes out of this hackathon. So I'm going to be watching. Please keep us all updated on Twitter as you're building things. The market's really quiet right now. There's a ton of room for you to get attention. You should build in public. And as this slide says, think about persistence, think about the ownership aspects, the stakes, lean into the unique aspects of it being on chain, and make something on work. What are some simple game ideas I'd like to see experimented with? Automated battlers, so something inspired by Salty Bet. If you know what Salty Bet is. So you just, NFTs, fighting it out in one-on-one duels on a timer indefinitely. That could be cool. The people have tried to do this a few times. It's never really been mature. Very simple economic game loops. So stuff like, FriendPet and Kamigotchi both have some information from Tamagotchis. Think about a very simple pet growth game where you're checking every day and you have to care for it, and maybe you get some compounding yield or tokens. There's a lot of things there that are easy to do. Maybe don't theme it as a simple pet game. Come up with something that's slightly more complicated. Idle games, so stuff like Cookie Clicker. You can go very asynchronous with those, very money focused. And again, there's very few idle games in crypto. So building a crypto idle game, I think, is a totally unexplored idea. Let's do some cool stuff. And that, you can have very little art, very simple code. You grow a plan, or you build a factory or whatever else. Play with something like that, and maybe with a leaderboard. I think there's unique ideas there that no one's ever touched on. Okay, that's to answer your question, T. And thank you, Kung Fu Mode. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'd say I'm finished up. I don't think anyone has any more questions. So thanks for listening, people. I hope you liked the presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, that was so good. Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Yeah, yeah, I'm hoping that people found that really, really useful. And I would urge anyone who is building for the hackathon to watch that presentation back and yeah, take some of the tips, because I think that's going to put you in a really good space to build something great. Yeah, so yeah, I think we're going to drop off. Thanks so much for joining this week. I think it's been really cool. Just a reminder, the actual hackathon kicks off in earnest on Monday. We will be putting the submission form online, so keep an eye out on the hackathon blog, which is on the Inco website. We'll also post that on the Inco X account, of course. And yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. And I'm looking forward to catching you back on